Welcome to our Bhagavad Gita Simple Understanding Discussion, episode number 62, text number 6.2 to 6.31. Sorry. So, we are discussing about the Dhyana Yoga in the 6th chapter. Now, today's discussion will be regarding what are the effects of a person who has achieved who has achieved is perfection in Sankhya Yoga. So, Sankhya Yoga, after achieving the perfection, what would be his attitude, what would be his perception on the world. So, we'll be reading that. So, text number 6.29. It reads like this: Sarvabhutastatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yogayuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. The yogi who is united in identity with all pervading infinite consciousness and whose vision everywhere is even, beholds the self present in all beings and all beings assumed in the self. Now, as we know, there are two different schools of thought. One says that after liberation, a person merges into the God and becomes one with him and everything is dissolved. That is one school of thought. The other school of thought is Vaishnavism, which says that after liberation, one continues to be different from the Supreme God. He maintains his individuality and worships God. So, in both the sense, we'll have to look into the shloka. So, it is up to the reader or up to the listener to decide what path he wants to take. Now, the yogi who is united in identity with all pervading infinite consciousness means the yogi who is united in identity. So this can be seen in two different terms. When you go by the thought of oneness, getting merged into the God, it means when the soul gets united with the super soul, the all pervading infinite consciousness, then he becomes one with the supreme consciousness and he starts seeing everything as seen by the supreme consciousness, which means he himself becomes God and thinks and sees, acts like God or the Supreme. But when you say this line in the Vaishnavism, it says that his thinking process becomes in line with God. The way God thinks, he also starts aligning his thoughts with the God. Thus, there is a line of difference between the two schools, and there is always an arguments who is right, who is wrong, abusing one and all. So we are not getting into that. So we'll just read the text as it is and try to understand them. So the yogi who is united in identity with all pervading infinite consciousness and whose vision everywhere is seen, beholds the self present in all beings and all beings assumed in the self. This is so. First we'll just see how an Advaitavadi thinks. So as per Advaita school, once becomes liberated, he merges himself into the God, or he becomes oneself with the supreme identity, and then he starts acting on that platform and he sees everything in that platform, and thus thereby he sees that he is present everywhere. Okay, beholds the self present in all beings, that is, all beings are as same as him. He can sense what all beings are doing or all beings are thinking. He assumes all are equal to him and all beings are assumed in the self. That means he sees no difference in the world, that everything is same. I see what is happening in an X element and that X element is in me. That means he merges himself and everything becomes one to them, that there exists no separate identity. Okay, so it's a kind of losing self-identity and merging with the universal identity. Okay, basically the universal identity is made up of tattvas. You get merged into tattvas and all tattvas become one. But in Vaishnavism, what happens? This line can be understood in the other way. As per Vaishnavism, he starts thinking the way Lord thinks of the world and does the activities what Lord would have done, aligns himself with Lord's service. That's how. Okay. So there's a bit of this shlokas will have a lot of uh, arguments between Vaishnavism and Advaitavism, Advaita or Advaita. So oneness and duality. So these are the shlokas which will relate to differences. So as far as that we read the text other than reading the translation, let's see what we understand. Sarvabhutastamatmanam sarvabhutani chaatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. So ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. So he sees everything equally in the sense there is no difference, there is no high, there is no low, there is no enmity, there is no friendship, but he sees things as it is, as creation of God, what role they have to do in this material world and how they are serving the Lord. So that's the Vaishnava principle. Yogatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. Samadarshana is he sees everything equally, neutrally. He doesn't get leaned by their stature. Say he sees an elephant or he sees a dog, he sees them as it is, as animals who have for certain reasons taken up the body, but ultimately in the body there is soul which is an servant of Lord. So that's how he sees. So in that vision he sees equally a dog and brahmana, an elephant, a thief, an enemy, and friend. He sees everyone in an equanimity. Samadarshanaha. Okay. So the first line, Sarvabhutastatmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani. So all the souls in all the living entities and all the jada, that is inanimate things, are seen as it is by a Vaishnava philosopher. That's what we understand in simple terms. Going to the next text. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sachamena pranashyati. I'll read once again. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarva cha mahi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sachamena pranashyati. He who sees me, the universal self, present in all beings and all beings in me, never loses sight to me, nor do I ever lose sight to him. So when we go by the words, we see that he who sees me, the universal self present in all beings. That means each and every living entity has two representatives in the body. One is the self, that is the soul. Another is the super self, that is Paramatma. We know that Paramatma is pervading in all bodies and Paramatma is present in all bodies. So a person who has realized this will see that every body has a Paramatma in him. So he will have to respect that Paramatma. He who sees me, the universal self present in all beings. That's what it means. And all beings in me. Again, Paramatma in any body and the super soul, the Narayana present in the Vaikuntha are not different. The Paramatma will have connections with the Narayana. In that terms, it is non-different. Even though the Narayana or the super soul has expanded as various Paramatmas, the Paramatmas are non-different, even though the individual soul in each body is different. So in that way, an realized yogi or realized soul sees that everybody, in everybody there exists a Paramatma and he has to respect him. And every soul in his own way is serving God in one way or the other. Due to his past karmas, he might have been in different circumstances. He might be acting in different gunas, whether in tamoguna, rajoguna or sattva. But ultimately he is a part of the Supreme God and he has to respect him. So that's what God says, never loses sight of me. That means whatever he sees in connection with God, nor do I ever lose sight of him. And God says that such a yogi who is completely devoted to God, God will never lose him. In a sense, God will never lose him in any way. Once a devotee is always a devotee. Once a person becomes a devotee, even though he may forget God in future, due to different circumstances, but God will never forget him. That's what he says. Nor do I ever lose sight of him. We have to understand this is a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. So Krishna is explaining, he who sees me, the universal self present in all beings, and all beings in me, never loses sight of me, nor do I ever lose sight of him. When he says, nor do I ever lose sight of him, in the sense, is God is never going to lose the sight of the devotee and yogi who has meditated on the form of Narayana or Krishna or whatever, the Vishnu form. He will never forget him, even though the God may forget, even though the devotee, see, every devotee is in different steps. Okay, after making certain progress, a devotee may fall down and forget God for some reason, but God or Krishna will never forget his bhakta. At any circumstances, he will see that he takes care of his bhakta, his necessities, his needs. So it's very important. So as we read only the shlokas or translations, we have more lenience towards Vaishnavism. The Vaishnavism philosophy is more convincing than the Mayavada philosophy, where it says everything merges, everything becomes one. That seems difficult subject to understand, but when you just read the translation, yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvacha mahi pashyati tasyaham na pashyami sachanme na pranashyati. So when we read them in simple lines, we understand the Vaishnava philosophy in more easy way, right? Going to the last slok of the day. सर्वभूत स्थितं यो मां भजयेकत्वमस्थितः सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि स योगी मयि वर्तते. The yogi who is established in union with me and worships me as dwelling in all beings, as their very self, abides in me, no matter what he does. So again, a simple lines. The yogi who is established in union with me. When he says union with me, union in thought, the thinking process is the same. What does God expects? He expects that every living being is happy by serving him. And what does a devotee think? Let every living entity serve the Lord and be happy. So the final result thought is same. That is what is called as union. Okay, the thought process or the thought of Supreme Lord and his devotee is same, is in union with both. And the next line says, and worships me as dwelling in all beings, as their very self. So we understood that Paramatma is situated in all bodies. In all bodies, all living entities, there is two versions. One is the individual soul and the other is the Paramatma. So a devotee understands that God is present in all bodies, all living entities, and worships them. The worships the Paramatma. Okay, and he worships every individual as God himself. Okay, it's not that every individual is God, but he sees the Paramatma present in every individual body and he respects that Paramatma. He worships that Paramatma. That's what it means. So the yogi who is established in union with me and worships me as dwelling in all beings, as their very self, abides in me, no matter what he does. Which means that Lord Krishna says that any individual soul who sees the presence of Paramatma in all bodies and respects them, Krishna always says that such a person he abides in me. That means he is with me. He is in me. That Krishna personally takes care, personally is in touch with him. So that's why the great yogis, the great bhaktas or the great dhyana yogis, whatever, who worship Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, are special in this world. These people in no matter should be offended in any way. They may seem to be normal or they may seem to be fallen, but again in their inherent consciousness they are always thinking of or always worshipping Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, and such persons are personally taken care of by Lord Krishna, and they should be never offended for any reason. So that's what we will see in future chapters, where Krishna, uh, in some verses says that he personally takes care of his devotees, right? So that's what we understand. So what in basic what we are going to understand is that Krishna is going to take care, or is taking care of people who are serving him directly or indirectly also. The more question is, any devotee of Krishna should be respected. So that's what we will be learning in future shlokas, and today we'll be finishing the small discussion. So thank you very much.